Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure. The Good Parts version, abridged by William Goldman. Part 8, Section 1, Honeymoon. Once the panic was well underway, Yellen realized he had next to no chance of bringing things immediately under control. Besides, the giant was terribly close now, and the roar of "No survivors" made it very hard to do any solid thinking, but fortunately he had the sense to grab the one and only key to the castle and hide it on his person. Fortunately, too, Wesley had the sense to look for such behavior. "Give me the key," Wesley said to Yellen. Once Inigo had his sword securely pressuring Yellen's Adam's apple. "I have no key," Yellen replied. "I swear on the grave of my parents, may my mother's soul forever sizzle in torment if I am lying." "Tear his arms off," Wesley said to Fezzik, who was sizzling a bit himself now because there was a limit as to just how long a Holocaust cloak was really good for, and he wanted to strip a bit. But before he did that, he reached for Yellen's arms. "This key, you mean?" Yellen said, and he dropped it. And after Inigo had taken his sword, they let him run away. "Open the gate," Wesley said to Fezzik. "I'm so hot," Fezzik said. "Can I please take this thing off first?" And after Wesley's nod, he pulled the flaming cloak away and left it on the ground, then unlocked the gate and pulled the door open enough for them to slip through. "Lock it and keep the key, Fezzik," Wesley said. "It must be after 5:30 by now. Half an hour left to stop the wedding." "What do we do after we win?" Fezzik said, working with the key, forcing the great lock to close. "Where should we meet? I'm the kind of fellow who needs instructions." Before Wesley could answer, Inigo cried out and realized and readied his sword. Count Rugen and 4 palace guards were rounding a corner and running toward them. The time was then 5:34. The wedding itself did not end until 5:31, and Humperdinck had to use all of his persuasive abilities to get even that much accomplished. As the screaming from outside the gate burst all bounds of propriety, the prince interrupted the archdeacon with the gentlest manner and said, "Holiness, my love is simply overpowering my ability to wait. Please skip on down to the end of the service." The time was then 5:27. "Humperdinck and Buttercup," the archdeacon said, I'm very old. I'm very old, and my thoughts on marriage are few, but I feel I must give them to you on this most happy of days." The archdeacon could hear absolutely nothing, and he had been so afflicted since he was 85 or so. The only actual change that had come over him in the past years was that, for some reason, his impediment had gotten worse. "Marriage," he said. "Very old." Unless you paid strict attention to his title and past accomplishments, it was very hard to take him seriously. "Marriage," the archdeacon began. "Again, Holiness, I interrupt in the name of love. Please hurry along as best you can to the end." "Marriage is a dream within a dream." Buttercup was paying little attention to the goings-on. Wesley must be racing down the corridors now. He always ran so beautifully, even back on the farm. Long before she knew her heart, it was good to watch him run. Count Rugen was the only other person in the room, and the commotion in the gate had him on edge. Outside the door, he had his best 4 swordsmen, so no one could enter the tiny chapel. But still, there were a lot of people screaming where the brute squad should have been. The 4 guards were the only ones left inside the castle, for the prince needed no spectators to the events that were soon to happen. If only the idiot cleric could speed things along. It was already 5:29. "The dream of love, wrapped within the greater dream of everlasting rest. Eternity is our wind. Remember that, and love with..." and wove with forever you forever. It was 5:30 when the prince stood up and approached the archdeacon firmly. "Man and wife," he shouted. "Man and wife, say that." "I'm not there yet," the archdeacon answered. "You just arrived," the prince replied. "Now." Buttercup could picture Wesley rounding the final corner. There were 4 guards outside waiting. At 10 seconds per guard, she began figuring, but then stopped, because numbers had always been her enemy. She looked down at her hands. "Oh, I hope he still thinks I'm pretty," she thought. "Those nightmares took a lot out of me." "Man and wife, you're man and wife," the archdeacon said. "Thank you, Holiness," the prince said, whirling toward Rugen. "Stop that commotion," he commanded. And before his words were finished, the count was running for the chapel door. It was 5:31. It took a full 3 minutes for the count and the guards to reach the gate, and when they did, the count could not believe it. He had seen Wesley killed, and now there was Wesley, and with a giant and a strangely scarred, swarthy fellow. Something about the twin scars banked deep into his memory, but now was not the time for reminiscing. "Kill them," he said to the fences, "but leave the middle-sized one until I tell you." And the 4 guards drew their swords. But too late and too slow. Because as Fezzik moved in front of Wesley, Inigo attacked, the great blade blinding, and the 4th guard was dead before the first one had sufficient time to hit the floor. Inigo stood still a moment, panting. Then he made a half turn in the direction of Count Rugen and executed a quick and well-formed bow. "Hello," he said. "My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." And in reply, the Count did a genuinely remarkable and unexpected thing. He turned and ran. It was now 5:37. King Lothran and Queen Bella arrived at the wedding chapel in time to see Count Rugen leading the 4 guards in a charge down the corridor. "Are we too early?" Queen Bella said as they entered the wedding chapel and found Buttercup and Humperdinck and the archdeacon. "There's much going on," the prince said. "All in due time will come matchlessly clear. But I fear there is a strong possibility that, at this very moment, the Guelderians are attacking. I need time alone in the garden to formulate my battle plans, so could I prevail upon you 2 to personally escort Buttercup to my bedchamber?" His request was naturally granted. The prince hurried off then, and after one stop to unlock a closet and remove several pairs of boots that had once belonged to Guelderian soldiers, he hurried outside. Buttercup, for her part, walked very slowly and peacefully between the old king and queen. There was no need ever to worry, not with Wesley there to stop her wedding and take her away forever. The truth of her situation did not take genuine effect until she was halfway to Humperdinck's room. There was no Wesley. No sweet Wesley. He had not seen fit to come for her. She gave a terrible sigh. Not so much of sadness as of farewell. When she got to Humperdinck's room, it would all be done. He had a splendid collection of swords and cutlery. She'd never seriously contemplated suicide before. Oh, of course she'd thought about it. Every girl does from time to time, but never seriously. To her quiet surprise, she found it was going to be the easiest thing in the world. She reached the prince's chamber, said goodnight to the royal family, and went directly to the wall display weaponry. The time was then 5:46. Inigo, at 5:37, was so startled at the Count's cowardice that for a moment he simply stood there. Then he gave chase, and of course, He was faster, but the Count made it through a doorway, slammed and locked it, and Inigo was helpless to budge the thing. Fezzik, he called out desperately. Fezzik, break it down. But Fezzik was with Wesley. That was his job, to stay and protect Wesley. And though they were still within view of Inigo, Fezzik could do nothing. Wesley had already started to walk, slowly, weakly, but he was, under his own power, walking. Charge it, Fezzik replied. Slam your shoulder hard. It will give for you. Inigo charged the door. He slammed and slammed his shoulder, but he was thin, the door otherwise. He's getting away from me, Inigo said. But Wesley is helpless, Fezzik reminded him. Fezzik, I need you, Inigo screamed. I'll only be a minute, Fezzik said, because there were some things you did no matter what, and when a friend needed help, you helped him. Wesley nodded, kept on walking, still slowly, still weak, but still able to move. Hurry, Inigo urged. Fezzik hurried. He lumbered to the locked door, threw his bulk against it hard. The door held. Please, Inigo urged. I'll get it, Fezzik promised. And he took a few steps back this time, then drove his shoulder against the wood. The door gave some, a little, but not enough. Fezzik backed away from it now. With a roar, he charged across the corridor, and when he was close, he left the castle floor with both feet, and the door splintered. Thank you, Inigo said, already halfway through the broken door. What do I do now, though? Fezzik called. Back to Wesley, Inigo answered, in full flight now, beginning chasing through a series of rooms. Stupid, Fezzik punished himself with, and he turned and rejoined Wesley. Only Wesley was no longer there. Fezzik could feel the panic starting inside him. There were half a dozen possible corridors. Which? Fezzik said, trying to figure it out, trying for once in his life to do something right. You'll pick the wrong one, knowing you, he said out loud, and then he took a corridor and started hurrying along it as fast as he could. He did pick the wrong one. Wesley was alone now. Inigo was gaining. He could see instant to instant flashes of the fleeing noble in the next room, and when he reached that place, the Count would have made it into the room beyond. But each time, Inigo was gaining. By 5:40, he felt confident he would, after a chase of 25 years, be alone in a room with his revenge. By 5:48, Buttercup felt quite sure she would be dead. It was still a minute before that as she stood staring at the prince's knives. The most lethal looked to be the one most used, the Florinese dagger. Pointed at one end, it entered easily, growing into a triangular shape by the hilt. For quicker bleeding, it was said. They were made in varying sizes, and the prince's looked to be one of the largest, being wrist thick where it joined the handle. She pulled it from the wall, put it to her heart. There are always too few perfect breasts in this world. Leave yours alone, she heard. And there was Wesley on the bed. It was 5:48, and she knew that she would never die. Wesley, for his part, assumed he had till 6:15 for his hour to be up. That was, of course, when an hour was up. Only he didn't have an hour, only 40 minutes. Till 5:55, actually. 7 minutes more. But, as he has said before, as has been said, he had no way of knowing that. And Inigo had no way of knowing that Count Rugen had a Florinese dagger, or that he was expert with the thing. It took Inigo until 5:41 before he actually cornered the Count in a billiard room. Hello, he was about to say. My name is Inigo. Montoya, you killed my father. Prepare to die. What he actually got out was somewhat less. Hello, my name is Annette. And then the dagger rearranged his insides. The force of the throw sent him staggering backward into the wall. The rush of the blood weakened him so quickly he could not keep his feet. Domingo, Domingo, he whispered. And then he was, at 42 minutes after 5, lost on his knees. Buttercup was baffled by Wesley's behavior. She rushed to him, expecting to be met halfway in a wild embrace. Instead, he only smiled at her and remained where he was, lying on the prince's pillows, a sword beside his body. Buttercup continued the journey alone and fell onto her very one and darling Wesley. Gently, he said. At a time like this, that's all you can think to say? Gently? Gently, Wesley repeated. Not so gently this time. She got off him. Are you angry at me for getting married? She wondered. You were not married, he said softly. Strange his voice was. Not in my church or any other. But this old man did pronounce. Widows happen every day, don't they, Your Highness? And now his voice was stronger as he addressed. Widows happen every day, don't they, Your Highness? And now his voice was stronger as he addressed the prince, who entered, muddy boots in hand. Prince Humperdinck dove for his weapons, and a sword flashed in his thick hands. To the death, he said, advancing. Wesley gave a soft shake of his head. No, he corrected. To the pain. It was an odd phrase, and for the moment it brought the prince up short. Besides, why was the fellow just lying there? Where was the trap? I don't think I quite understand that. Wesley lay without moving, but he was smiling more deeply now. I'll be only too delighted to explain. It was 5:50 now. 25 minutes of safety left. There were 5. He did not know that. How could he know that? Slowly, carefully, he began to